Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, John.
Okay.
I was just trying to give the people who need you the first dibs at you.
Well, if no one has a question or something to work on, that's going to be a first in my existence.
Okay. Because if not, I do have a question for you.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead.
The question is, I was talking to a gentleman last night who thought that the cap for small business on how much they can receive per year on a contract, is it $11 million? Is that correct?
No, that's what's called size standards, and size standards are based on the n.a.i.c.s codes. Each n.a.i.c.s code has its own size standard. For example, I happen to have a size standards Excel spreadsheet that I created. So if you are a company that does septic tank and related services, you can't make more than $7 million in 1 year and still be a small business. But if you do septic tanks and materials recovery and remediation, you could do a remediation contract if you did less than 14 million last year. But if you did, say you did 8 million, then you can no longer do small business contracts for septic tanks, but you can still do them under remediation. And you can still do materials recovery. And then some size standards are not based on dollar amounts, based on the number of employees. So I actually know an environmental remediation company that has 499 employees, and they only hire part-time employees now to get around that.
Okay. Okay. So if we are in a situation and we want to make sure that that amount won't hurt us, can we just reach out to you?
Well, you know, it's a good problem to have. Making too much money is always a good problem to have. But in the grand scheme of things, if you made too much money last year, it's done.
Is it done? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. The only way around it would be to, if you started, another company and had some of those contracts done by the new company and split it between the two companies.
Okay.
But then you're going to need a different primary owner, and there's a lot of red tape. Best thing to do if that's the case is get with me, and we'll see what kind of solutions we can come up with.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem. That is a good problem to have, though. Making too much money is a problem to have.
Well, we're working with a medical technology angle and looking at contracts, and we have a gentleman that's working on some technology, and he's looking at working with us once the technology is created, and so we just want to know what the cap is for GCI per year.
It would be based on what n.a.i.c.s code the purchasing agent thinks they need to hire you under, and then the dollar amount for that.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
So
Thank you so much.
No problem. Need me to send you a copy of this size standards, or anybody needs me to send them a copy of the size standards, just drop me an email and I'll send it to you after the training.
Yeah, I'll make a note and send it to you.
Anybody else have a question, bid, solicitation, proposal to work on? Nobody? You guys are making it way too easy on me today.
Since nobody else has a question, I'm wondering if you can tell us about your background before you got into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Paid my way through college by DJing and running events and singing in a band. And then after I got out of college, I started an event company. Well, before that, I got out of college and I worked for a company doing software development. This is late 80s, early 90s. I was doing, year 2000 date change conversion for Fortune 500 companies. We were doing C++ and client server and stuff that was, big back then. And I had a pretty difficult time in what we were hired to do. We were hired to get in front of CEOs and chief information officers and CFOs of Fortune 500 companies. And I don't know if you've ever tried to call a CEO of a Fortune 500 company. and get through their gatekeeper and actually get them on the phone. It's not an easy task. You had to be creative. We'd come in at 5:30 in the morning and start calling the direct dials, because sometimes the secretary doesn't get in until 7 or 8 o'clock. The CEO would actually answer his own phone at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you got 20 seconds to get his attention or he's going to hang up on you. I got him in front of John Deere, Coca-Cola, had a lot of big accounts, and we were actually so successful that they decided we got them too much business, and they canceled our whole division and gave us severance pay and let us go, which was like mind-boggling. Why would you, like making too much money? Well, you got us too much business, so we're going to let you go. About a year later, they brought us back, and then wound up going public and selling the company, and everything changed and blah, blah, blah. So I did that for a while. After that, in 2001, I started an event company, and was doing corporate functions and private parties and weddings and bar mitzvahs and quinceañeras and divorce parties, you name it. And, did management of events for a while. That business was going really well until the economy fell out 2008. We basically lost our butts. I mean, people stopped spending. They didn't want to spend money on nothing. So 2007, somebody offered to buy the company from me for $1 million, and I turned them down because we did $500,000. I figured we'd double in 2008, and we didn't. So, hindsight's 20/20. After that, I worked on, I did reverse mortgages for a friend of mine that owns a real estate company for a while. And, just wasn't into it, really didn't like it. And then I got a phone call one day from our CEO, Eric, and he said, I've known Eric for a long time. He said, John Wayne, I'm going to start this new business. I want you to come work for me. And that was 2009. I was the first employee hired here, and we got over 60 employees now, I think. That's it.
Very cool.
Any other questions? Anybody else bids, solicitation, proposal you want to work on?
John, this is Joseph. I just sent you over an email regarding the reps and search of the proposal we're working on.
Excellent.
In our proposal, they referenced this reps and search that has to be filled out. Is our FAR report sufficient, or do we still have to fill this out in addition to attaching the FAR report?
Usually you just attach the FAR report, and that's more than sufficient. But in this case, because it's such a small document, it's only 4 pages. I would overkill on this one. I'd do both.
Okay.
It's only 4 pages. Wouldn't take you 5 minutes to fill it out, so you might as well do it. And then last thing you want to find out is you didn't win the contract because you didn't fill this out,
Right. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Let me show you guys how to download your reps and search properly as well, because I had a client earlier sent me his reps and search, and he renamed it. I don't know why, but I can show you the proper way to do it. So you go to sam.gov, search records, put in your company name, your DUNS number, or your cage code. It's going to pull up your file, and don't log in when you do this. You don't have to log in. Don't ever log in without asking me first, because if you log in and you don't save properly, you're going to unactivate yourself, and then we don't know it because you logged in and deactivated yourself, and then you bid on a contract and don't win it. We do a debriefing, find out it's because you weren't active because you did a knucklehead thing. Just don't log in ever. Once you pull your file up, click View Details. Go over here to Reps and Search and click Download. Now, if it only says Download FAR, that's because D.F.A.R s are for people who also import and export, and there's some other reasons that you would have D.F.A.R s. So if it only says Download FAR, that's all you can download. If it says Download FAR and D.F.A.R s, download both by clicking it. It downloads automatically. and then I print it to my desktop as a PDF. All I gotta do is save it. Now, it's gonna name it automatically. Leave it exactly how it names it. The only reason why it has a 9 on the end is because I've downloaded this 9 times, but it'll show it just like this. It'll show your business name, -FAR and D.F.A.R.s, -report. Don't change it. Leave it exactly how it names it, because that's how purchasing agents are accustomed to seeing it. And just save it right to your desktop. That's it. That's simple. And that's most solicitations. That's 90% of the bid right there is just downloading that document. You just did 90% of a bid in 2 minutes. Before Orca, before SAM, you would have to fill those out every time you submit a bid. Anybody else have any questions? Bid, solicitation, proposal? If you guys don't have anything else, I've got, well, actually I got a couple of government referrals maybe you guys could take advantage of. If anyone does document scanning, I got a purchasing agent looking for someone to do document scanning. I've also got a FEMA purchasing agent reached out looking for vendors in New Jersey, if I remember correctly. Let's see. Yeah, FEMA purchasing agent looking for vendors to provide engineers, architects, and construction. And he is in 609 is New Jersey. Yep. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I'll send it over to you. You can follow up with them.
John, I already talked to him, and he's no longer interested. He was doing it's Holla, by the way. He was doing some research, and he mentioned that he's not interested.
Okay. All right. Well, anybody else got a question or solicitation, proposal, bid you want to work on today? This is the shortest training I think I've ever had. I must have answered all your questions yesterday.
Hi, John. Hi, John. This is Jason.
Yes.
Hey, got a question for you, sir.
Sure.
And, of course, we're still new. We just signed up with you guys a couple weeks ago. Let's say we see a bid out there that has, I don't know, it's in an industry that we don't necessarily understand, but we have subject matter experts from another company that does understand it. Okay? And we decide we're going to go ahead and, do the bid, get their subject matter expertise as we source out the bid and all that stuff, and we get it. Does that go, and Sam's registered, Dunn's registered, they're not. Does that work go under our company, or how does, I guess I'm trying to understand the whole brokering thing, because all the terminology is still fairly new.
Right. When it comes to subcontracts, so you're the prime, you're going to sub it out. Most contracts, you don't have to disclose who your subcontractors are. Government doesn't care. As long as you make sure the job's done and done right, they're happy. If the contract is over $650,000, a lot of those contracts over $650,000 have a requirement where you have to sub out 23% of it. It's not an option, but they're going to force you to hire small businesses as subcontractors. And to do that, in order to prove that you're doing that, they want you to post in a system called the ESRS, the Electronic Subcontract Reporting System. And this system shows that you've hired at least 23% small businesses to do sub work. You have to post it under their cage code. So those subcontractors that you hire are going to have to be registered in SAM. They're going to have a cage code be registered in SAM in order to do that. If that's the case, and you need your subs registered, obviously refer them to me and I'll get them registered. But if the contract's under $650,000, usually they don't care if you sub it out or not, and they don't require you to report. Unless they specify. Sometimes they'll specify in the solicitation that they want to know who your subcontractors are, in which case you have to disclose them. If it's a brick and mortar, sometimes on brick and mortar contracts, they're going to require that you do a certain amount in-house so that you have a physical location in the area of the contract. But other than that, no, they're pretty laid back.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. Good question. Anybody else got a question, solicitation, proposal?
John, it's Holly. So today is my first session, and thank you in advance. My question is that since my case is more like engineering and the consulting, and we talked briefly about it, is there anything like, for instance, that I need to work with you separately, or if it is something that I have a question on, I can ask here? Because the majority of people probably, I'm understanding that they might be like in contracting field, not what I do. So my questions might be a little bit off.
That's okay. I mean, like today, we don't have a lot of questions. So some people get on the training and just listen. I've had people that get on the training and they never ask a question. They don't make a peep. But boy, they're listening and they're absorbing the information and they're taking notes and they're learning. Matter of fact, I got a let me see here. I got a compliment today. I mean, I get compliments every day, but I got one today about, thanking you for scheduling the call and just times that she gets on and just listens and learns, and she's very happy and loves the group trainings, very amazing, blah, 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 So you're more than welcome to join any day if you don't have questions and listen, or if you got a question, even if it's way off subject, you don't think anybody else is going to even relate. Some of them just want to listen just to learn. Or if you got a question that's, outside that realm, you can always drop me an email. I try and stay on top of my emails constantly. I can't always return voicemails immediately because I'm frequently on the phone, but if you guys need something from me quickly, just drop me an email.
So a question. I'm gonna go to a SBA event for small business in Southern California, which is gonna be next week. There will be a matchmaking for 1 hour. So it's already set to meet some of the government, representative. Is there anything that you would suggest for me to say, or let's say if there might be questions they might be asking, because I'm pretty new in this, so
sure.
That you might have in mind?
2 suggestions. Number 1, make sure you get a card from every one of them. If they don't have a card, get their name and email and phone number. Have a way that you can contact them directly. I get occasional person will say, yeah, I went to this event, I handed out 50 cards. How many did you get? Well, what do you mean? How many business cards did you get? Well, I didn't get any. I handed mine out. Always get their card. When I do events, I don't even bring cards. That forces me to get theirs. I didn't bring them, or I don't use cards. I just tell them straight up, I don't use business cards, but let me get yours and I'll get in touch, because I know I'll call them. If they take my card and I don't take theirs, there's a chance they might not call me. They might lose my card, or, So always get their card, number 1. Number 2, instead of handing out business cards, print out your cap statement. Go to a print shop. You can get 50 color pages for $50, or even cheaper. Hand out cap statements. Maybe make it like a trifold or something like that versus handing out business cards. Meet and greets are either really good or they're a total waste of time. I never see an in-between. I never have somebody come back and say, yeah, it was pretty good, but it wasn't that good. They're either, man, it was awesome, or I just wasted my time and my money. There's never an in-between. The ones that are typically good are ones where there's a lot of purchasing agents and not a lot of vendors. And you actually have time to sit down and talk to them and shake their hand. And the ones that are not good is when there's a lot of vendors and there's only like one purchasing agent and you get 2 minutes to talk to him. And he's going to talk to 300 people that day. Some of the ones that the better ones are not, and I'm not going to talk bad about the SBA, although I could all day long. Some of the better ones are not SBA events. They're like a military base does an open house, and you can buy a plate of dinner for $200, and they donate that money to the Cancer Society or something like that. Those are typically a lot better.
Thank you.
No problem. But what I tell people when it comes to those events is if the event's local and it's not that expensive and you're not going to have to take a lot of time out, invest a lot of time to go to it, then go. If it's on the other side of the country and you've got to get a plane ticket and a rental car and a hotel and it's $1,000 to join the event, you know, you got to balance the pros with the cons. If it's not expensive and it's not time consuming, go to it. If it's extremely expensive and extremely time consuming, is it going to make sense?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I understand.
Good question.
Hey, John.
Yes.
I have a question. Have you ever attended any of the American Express Open for Government Contracting seminars that they host?
No. No, sir.
Okay. Okay. 'Cause, yeah.
Have you gone to one?
Well, they had one in Atlanta, January 31st, but it was right at the same time we found out about you, and we liked what you had to offer, so we decided it would be overkill, and we just abandoned it.
So you chose me over American Express. That's awesome.
Yes, sir. Yes, yeah.
Don't leave home without me.
And yes, and just for your reference, I'll scan and email you the itinerary for the event, just so you can see what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, I'll make sure I do that.
I will be doing I just did the IGA convention a couple of weeks ago in Tucson. They had me as a keynote speaker, and I will be doing, I do the NBCC every year, the National Black Chamber of Commerce. I'm their government spokesperson. And this year's conference is going to be in Tampa, and the last I talked to them, it looked like they were going to basically focus the entire conference around John Wayne and government contracting. So the closer we get to that date, and they actually specify a specific date, probably around June or July, I'll let you guys know. And it'll be right here in Tampa,
Thank you.
my hometown.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
One more question, Tole. So I just made my capability statement something that I watched from your YouTube video, something always similar.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between that and the statement of qualification? Do we need to have both?
I would, only because, and there's really not much difference between the two. You know, it boils down to this, and I go through this quite a bit. When you watch one of my videos, you'll know more than most federal purchasing agents. Literally, you guys, by watching my videos, are know way more than a lot of the purchasing agents do. And a lot of times what they say or what they're doing is wrong. There's no centralized training where they train every federal purchasing agent the same way. And because of that, they tend to, like the reps and search, for example. Some purchasing agents call it reps and certs. Some call it representations and certifications. Some call it FAR regulations. Some call it FAR and d.f.a.r provisions. Some call it federal acquisition regulations. Some of them still call it ORCA. And ORCA was eliminated in 2010. And some of them call it Online Representation Certifications Application, which is what ORCA stands for. But it's all the same document. It's all the same thing that they're asking. And some of them, you tell them, you know, this is called reps and no, it's not. It's called ORCA. They'll argue with you. Don't argue with them. Let them call it the wrong thing or whatever, you know. And I can show you another example of that where the government's confused about their own, you know, their own things. If you go to sam.gov and you go, like I showed you earlier, to download your reps and certs, inside SAM itself, they call representations and certifications FAR report or FAR and d.f.a.r report. They call it representations and certifications, and they call it reps and certs. They call it 3 different things just inside this one system alone. And I bet if you go back through some of these, some of them still talk about ORCA, and some of them still talk about CCR. They eliminated CCR in 2010. You know, it's just some agencies, some purchasing agents will ask for your cap statement, some will ask for your white paper, some will ask for your statement of purpose. They're all talking about the same thing, basically. Any other questions? And your cage code, your cage code and your DUNS number are public information, guys, so don't ever worry about giving these out. Go ahead.
John, I got a question for you.
Yes.
This is along the lines of what I was asking about the subcontracting. You know, when I think about doing a deal with anyone, of course, it comes down to, you know, how much are they going to get, how much are we going to get, and all those things. What have you typically seen for, or is there a typical answer for how you divide the monies with a subcontractor relationship?
I usually, you know, when I have a job that I'm going to sub out, I would go to the subcontractor and ask them for a quote, and then take their quote and put my profit on top of it.
Got you. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Yeah,
and I've seen, I was talking to a guy one day, and he said, yeah, I've been doing a lot of subcontracting work, and I love it. They keep me busy, and it's good money, and he says, I'm thinking about subbing it out to another guy, and I said, well, that's crazy, you know, it's subbing it out to a sub. He goes, dude, I'm the 13th sub in this thing, and I'm going to sub it out to the 14th sub. There's literally a prime subbing it out to someone who's subbing it, 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 subbing it, subbing it, subbing it. 14 times that thing's being passed on, and everybody's making money on it. And I'm thinking, the guy at the bottom of the totem pole can't be making much money. He's like, oh, man, these contracts are great. I make great money on them. I make enough money to sub it out to somebody else. No, that's not all contracts, but they're out there. Sure. They exist, you know. I was talking to somebody yesterday. He said he was getting a quote. He gave the quote to his purchasing agent. I think he said the quote was like $800, and the purchasing agent told him he must have the wrong product because they paid $1,800 for it last year. So you need to get the right product and give us a quote around $1,800. We'll hire you. And he's like, it is the right product. I don't want to gouge them, you know, and make more than it's worth and have them come back later and say, well, you took advantage of us and gouged us. Look, if the purchasing agent's telling you that he wants to pay a certain amount, sell it to him. You can't get in trouble for doing what you're told.
Now, as part of your services, if we do find a situation where we would like to subcontract out with someone for XYZ, can we come to you and ask your opinion on how we should handle it?
Absolutely. You can ask my opinion on anything. I'll teach you everything I know.
Okay.
The more successful you are, the more successful I am. It's a real simple concept, you know. When I first started working on proposals and getting that experience and training my clients and recording these videos, I didn't want to put them out there because I didn't want my competition to find them and learn what I know. But they're going to find out anyway, you know. All they got to do is call me up and tell me there's somebody else and hire me, and I'm going to give them everything anyway. So I figured might as well just put it out there. And it's working well, you know. I get a lot of people tell me that nobody does what I do. They're like, no one does what you do, John Wayne. They'll give you they'll put the carrot in front of the horse. They'll give the horse a little bite to make them move forward, but they won't give you the rest of the carrot. They want you to pay for it. I give you the whole carrot. Eat it. If you want me to make you a carrot cake, then I'm going to charge you. Cake, please.
No, I think it's a good strategy because like for me, watching your YouTube, it actually made me find out that you know a lot, you know, and if there are like several options to go with, I mean, that's going to be you for sure, you know. So I think that was really good.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. I really do. You know, I'm learning that a lot of times people won't give you feedback unless they're upset. You know, when someone's upset, you're going to hear from them. But if they're really happy, they rarely give you much feedback, you know. And when I do get it, it's nice to hear. But it's like the videos. A lot of people watch the videos and they really enjoy them, but they don't make any comments on them, you know. But boy, if I ever say something wrong in a video, you better believe the trolls are going to be out there telling me I got a grammatical or a misspelling error or something. Any of you guys?
One more question.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Let's say if I'm very much interested to work with prime contractors as a subcontractor, because on what I do, probably that's going to be working pretty well. Would you be able to help also on finding those people, like for me, like to to target them and be pretty much like somehow like in front of them and find them or get information to call them, whatever it takes. I'll do it. It doesn't matter for me,
Yes, absolutely. Now, the difference between me and my competitors is my competitors will sell you a list of people. I'll give you the list. I'll show you how to search it on your own and find these guys. I'll show you how to mine the system and get that information. Because I'd rather teach a man to fish than feed him every day, Two things. First of all, if you have not seen this video right here, Subcontract Training Volume 2, watch it because it covers subcontracting. And then I'll go through the system right. If you guys don't have any other questions, I'll go through it right now if you like.
Hey, John, I have just one more question before you go through that.
Okay.
We were trying to figure out how do we have searches or whatever our keywords are, how do we get that to ping us through email or whatever the case might be?
You can, I'll show you right now real quick, and then you can also search YouTube for FBO how-to. I think it comes up just under FBO now. I think I've dominated YouTube long enough. No, it doesn't come up under FBO. I'm not first under FBO, but if you do FBO how-to, I'm number 1. If you do FBO search, I'm number 1 and 2 and 4 and 5. So these videos show you how to do it, but I'll show you now, and then you can always go back to the video if you forget something.
Okay.
So you go to your FBO, unless you're using AFPDS, it's different, but you go to FBO, log in, accept the terms and conditions. You're going to go to the Save Searches right here. You're going to add new search agent. You want to name it. So this one we're going to call exterior painting. Now, because it's 2 words, we got to do it a little differently. If it was just painting, we just use the 1 word. But if it's 2 words, we need to put a quote on it, put a capital N in between each word, and a close quote. You're going to copy that. If you only want to do business in a certain state, click the state. It'll only search that state. If you want to search multiple states, hold down the CTRL button. That's the lower left-hand button on the keyboard. And click multiple states. It'll highlight each state as long as you're holding that CTRL button down. If you don't hold it down, every time you click a new state, it's going to de-highlight the previous state. If you want to search all 50 states, don't click anything. Leave it blank. It'll search all 50. Copy the term. Don't click on anything. Just scroll down to the keyword box and paste it. Okay, that's your keyword or saw box. That's your search term box. Scroll to the very bottom and save and schedule. And then yes, enable, and save. And that's it. That search is going to run automatically every day from now on. If you have an account in FBO. If you don't, you're going to have to set up an account in FBO first. If you're new and you signed up for the SAP program, we're going to set up your FBO for you. So you just got to wait a couple of days till they get around to it. Or you can go ahead and set one up temporarily. Whatever email address you use to set up the account is the email that you're going to receive the opportunities to. You can only put 1 email keywords combinations, different combinations of keywords, and I would even, if you got words that are commonly misspelled in your industry, I would set up searches in here and misspell them on purpose. And here's why. I learned this on accident. Freight is spelled F-R-E-I-G-H-T. Freight is spelled F-R-I-E-G-H-T. How many contracts you think are in this system under freight misspelled? You guys think it's over 100?
Probably so.
Yep, definitely.
How about 130? For freight shipping services. Look. And it was awarded. Could be that there was only one offer received because no one's smart enough to look for stuff misspelled. You know, no one's smart enough to dumb it up, if you will. I learned this the hard way because one of my clients called me one day. This guy's never done a contract over $2,000, and he won a contract for, I think it was $280,000, and it was for asphalt. And he called me. He was all excited, and he said, I won it, but I was the only person that bid on it. They sole sourced it for me because the guy misspelled asphalt in the entire solicitation. And when my client set up his searches, he accidentally typoed it, and that's why he found it. Crazy is as crazy does. Yeah, once you set up the searches in FBO, they'll run automatically, and you'll start getting emails from no-reply@fbo.gov.
Okay.
You'll get emails like this, and it'll say your FBO search agent opportunity called. It'll tell you what it's called, and then it'll give you the links. Anybody who hasn't gotten, if you guys are new, you probably haven't gotten my acronyms list. Email me. Let me know you need the acronyms. I got a list of acronyms. It's also those cheats in FBO I just showed you. There's different ways to do those cheats. Excuse me. Allergies. If there's no other questions, I'll show you guys how to mine information for subcontracts.
One more question about FBO. I've heard that when the opportunity is actually on FBO, it's too late, meaning that it's like pre-awarded or something like that. Is that true? Is that the case?
No, that's a wives' tale. I've heard that too. I've heard the SBA tell people that. I had a woman the other day call me up. She said, John Wayne, I've been watching your videos, and I'm very impressed. She said, but I to the SBA and talked to them, and the lady at the SBA told me I was completely wasting my time, that there was no reason the government was going to buy from me. I'm like, why would the SBA tell you? They're the Small Business Association. Their job is to help you win government contracts. Why would they tell you don't do it? It's mind-boggling. And I know for a fact, I've taught people how to broker contracts. People who have no business being in business are winning government contracts. So if I can teach a startup company how to broker, there's no reason why a successful business can't sell to the government. And the government buys everything. There's nothing our federal government doesn't buy. It was a running joke forever to find something our government didn't buy. And I had a guy call me one day, told me he wanted to sell yo-yos to the government. And I thought, this is a joke. Someone's pulling my legs. One of my friends messing with me. There's no way our government buys yo-yos. And the guy got insulted that I, thought it was a joke. And he's like, no, I already sell yo-yos to the government. I'm thinking to who? To Congress? He sells them to federal parks, like the Redwood Forest. He makes yo-yos out of redwood. He burns their logo on it, and they resell them in their gift shop. So to find opportunities to work on as a subcontractor. Number one, if you're in FBO bidding, use FBO to mine data. So for example, let's say I'm working on bidding on this. While I'm in here bidding, scroll to the bottom and copy both those point of contacts and paste them into an Excel spreadsheet or something under painting, purchasing agents. Every time you bid, grab the contact information, put it in that spreadsheet. 2 or 3 months from now, you got nothing to do, pull out that spreadsheet and call all those guys. Remind them that you're available to do simplified acquisitions. Hit them with your elevator pitch. See if they got something for you to do. Ask them what you can do to earn their business. You can also, while you're in here, go to the interested vendors list and copy everybody off the interested vendors list and cut and paste that into an Excel spreadsheet. You know, if some of these guys are exterior painters and you do exterior painting, you can contact them and offer to do work for them as a subcontractor. Not everybody in here is bidding. Okay, so just because there's 24 people on the interested vendors list doesn't mean 24 people are bidding on this and you shouldn't invest your time on it because there's too many people bidding. That's not the case. Marvin Heyman sells proposal writing services. He's not bidding. These guys do cost estimating. They're not bidding. Powers Group sounds like they're probably selling something. They don't even have a legitimate domain name. 4-Click Solutions, probably not painters. They're probably selling something. Principal Information Technology Company, I doubt they're painters. You know, they're selling something. Griffin Builders, they might be bidding on it, or they might be a paint supplier, and they want to know who it's awarded to so they can offer to, you know, sell paint to them. Construction Interface, doesn't sound like a construction company. It sounds like they're selling something that helps construction companies communicate or blah, blah, blah. Concept Commissioning, commissioning company, that's different from painting. They're probably bidding. They're a construction company. Construction Journal, these guys sell services to construction companies. They don't do painting. These guys finance contracts. They're not bidding. I would guesstimate they're probably bidding. Capital Endeavors, they probably finance contracts. They're not building. These guys write proposals. They're not bidding. Frank Riley is a bid protest attorney. He's not bidding. GC Experts, they sell government contracting services, but they don't do construction. They teach you how to do construction. So they kind of do what I do, I guess. Uncle Davies, he's probably a contractor. He's probably bidding. Federal Contract Training Services, I've never heard of before. That's new. And they're obviously selling services like I do. And they don't even have a real domain name. Wood Products and Services, they're probably not painters. They probably want to be notified who it's awarded to so they can offer to sell wood or paint. So out of the 24 people on here, there's probably only 2 or 3 of them that are actually bidding. But if you cut and paste that into a spreadsheet, you can always follow up with them and find out who's doing what and who you can offer to sell to or do subcontract work for. So that's one system you can mine, is FedBizOps. And if you're in here bidding, you might as well take advantage of the opportunities, the information that's in there while you're at it. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. If you like killing birds, I don't know. Second place you can go to find primes. I wouldn't even bother with SAM. It's a pain. It has problems. They're still working on phase 1. They were supposed to be at phase 4 by now. It glitches. It has problems. So I wouldn't bother searching in SAM at all. Second place I would search is the FPDS. You can go in here and type in construction. You can search by a certain state. So you start with your local contractors first. I would either go by date signed. So you see the most recently awarded. If they were awarded a contract yesterday, more than likely they're an active business. You're not wasting your time. Or start by action obligation, go with the biggest guys first. They were awarded a $13 billion contract in 2008. More than likely, they're still in business. And if they're big enough, they have to hire small businesses to do sub work anyway. To find out who you need to talk to here, you take their DUNS number. You go to the, this system used to be called Binks. Now they call it Cage. So you go to cage.dla.mil-search. It's going to tell you it's not secure. It's a government database. You're fine. Paste their DUNS number right here. And there's the company Emerson. There's Emerson's Chuck Emerson. More than likely, he's the CEO. There's his phone number. So you call Chuck and hit him with your elevator pitch. Make sure you mention you can help him with the ESRS requirements. If he says, I don't know what that is, ask him who his small business liaison officer is. and talk to that person, because that person knows all about the ESRS. And just hit him with a quick elevator pitch. Ask him what you can do to earn his business. If he's not the right guy
This is great. Wow. Okay. This is great. Thank you.
If he's not the right guy to speak to, he should know who to refer you to. And their website's right there if you want to do a little research on them. I get some people say, well, you know, I never do a cold call without doing research first. I understand that. I respect that. But the more research you do, the less calls you're going to make. So don't get too involved in trying to know too much. And you might spend 10 minutes researching this guy, and then you call them, and they tell you they're not interested. They got plenty of subcontractors, and you just wasted time doing all that research. So keep the research to a minimum. Make sure you mention the ESRS, and if they don't know what that is, ask them who the Small Business Liaison Officer is. If they're a big enough company, they did a $300 billion contract, they deal with the ESRS all the time, and they will have a Small Business Liaison Officer, even though they might not call it that. It might have a different title. That's another system you can use. Now, while you're in FPDS and you want to know who Emerson sold to, who the purchasing agent is that hired Emerson, click the view link and get a copy right up here, the prepared user and the last modified user. You're going to take this to a different system. They call it Google. Just Google it. And there's Michael's name, there's his phone number, there's his address, email. So now you can reach out to Michael and ask him what you can do to earn his business. You know, he's the purchasing agent that hired them for that $13 billion construction contract. Let them know that you provide, you know, architecture and planning services, that you want to work as a subcontractor or even as a prime if they got anything. Hit them with your elevator pitch. And go back and do the same thing with the other modified user. Because Michael might not even be there anymore. He might have moved on or retired or died. So contact Steven too. And that's another system you can search in to find stuff. Now, you can also go back to Cage. And go back to the Cage website, and you can search a company by their name. You can search them by their phone number, etc. Or if you want to find, say you want to find construction companies that are small businesses that you want to subcontract to, or you want to do work together with, or subcontract for. Then you go to another system called the D.F.A.R. Sounds like a lot of BS, I know. D.F.A.R, you can search by state. You can search by keyword, by n.a.i.c.s code. If you're looking for a sub that you want to sub out to, but you're 8A and you got to find people that are 8A, you can search for 8As. If you're in a HUBZone, you want to find HUBZone contractors to sub to, you can find HUBZones. You can find small disadvantaged businesses. You can find DBEs and MBEs. You can find a minority, woman, veteran, anything in here. Once you put in all your search terms, go to the bottom and hit search using this criteria. And there's another system you can use called Subnet. Subnet is the SBA's database where the SBA allows primes to put out, you know, advertisements or links to opportunities where they're looking to hire subcontractors. So in this case, you don't even have to like cold call. These guys are wanting you to call them for a subcontract. So you can go in here. Really? There you go. So you can go in here and you can search by n.a.i.c.s code or by description, a keyword, a subcontract solicitation number. Sometimes they'll put solicitation numbers on subcontract, search by state. And once it loads, it'll give you a list of primes that are looking to hire subcontractors for specific jobs where they want a subcontractor. And it looks like it crashed. You want the one that's through the SBA. There it is right there, Net Search Solution, Subnet. There it is. Click search the database. Wait for it to load. Looks like it's not working. They're probably modifying it because all these systems are being migrated into SAM, so they're probably modifying it. That's why it's not working. So I'm going to come back and try it another day. It'll show you a list of opportunities where they're looking for subs, and it gives you the name and phone number, the SBLO, email. It's all right there to reach out to them. There it is. So like this guy right here is listening for subcontractors and material suppliers for sanitary sewer improvements. These guys are looking for housekeeping services. These guys are looking for subcontracts for materials, management and training, you know, and you can click on one of these and it gives you the name and phone number, point of contact, everything's right there. You can also, and anybody that doesn't have the list of all these links, email me and I'll send you the links as well. And that's pretty much it in the subcontracting arena. Any other questions?
Hey, John, it's Trent. I hate to ask you this again. Can you show me and Jason again how to find out what the government's calling diversity training?
What they're calling it?
Yeah, like what term? Well, like when we put in diversity training in the search, we don't get a lot, but they may be calling it using other terms.
I tend to use FPDS when searching stuff like that, so. So there's one NAICS code they're using for human resources consulting. They're using the PSA code, lectures for training. Same code, different PSC code. That's a different PSC code. Same NAICS, different NAICS. So you can search by those, or this is a training company that does diversity training. So click the view link. Go inside the contract and see what they call it in the notes right here. They just called it training. You can also go to NAICS.com. Find your NAICS code. Diversity. So apparently there is no keyword under diversity. I didn't spell it right. Look under training. So those are all the different NAICS codes with the keyword training in it. And then you can also in FBO, that's not FBO. And your save searches in FBO, you can go in and create a search. Okay, so under diversity training, they're using education training, training curriculum development, view 0008. So you can go back to your FBO. You can create a search with no word in it. Leave the keyword blank. And you can go down here. So you got apprenticeship training, flight training, professional management, development training. That's probably your main one right there. And maybe even computer training. And then put in the keyword diversity. So it's going to search under the keyword diversity and under those 4 NAICS codes. And then once you save that one, log in and create another one. And instead of doing this one by NAICS code, do this one by PSC code. Under diversity. You know? And maybe even set one up with no keyword on it. Just do all the training. So one day when you get nothing and you're bored, you're definitely going to get hits under training. You can go through those. You got nothing to do, go through those, see if you can find some.
Okay, so do all training.
Yep.
Awesome.
And reach out to these primes, man. Look, these primes that have big contracts, they have to hire 23% small businesses to keep their contracts. So they're always looking for ways to get small businesses to do business with to meet their ESRS requirements. All right, I'll give you a prime example. I got a client who does a lot of government contracts. He's a big construction guy. He had called me a couple of years ago because he was ready to get on the g.s.a. schedule. And he was telling me about he just built a brand new facility for his team because he was growing. And he had 3 old facilities, different locations that were old and flat. He got rid of those, and he's got one brand new place. He's real proud of it. And we were talking about g.s.a., and we wound up talking about the ESRS, the Electronic Subcontract Reporting System. And he was bitching about how he hates those requirements because he does such big contracts. They require he sub out 23% a lot of time. So he's got to hire subs, and they don't do the work the way his guys do it, or he's got to go back and double-check their work and babysit them, and he just hated that requirement. But it had to be done. And I asked him, I said, well, the new building that you've got, it's 5,600 square feet or something, nice size building. I said, you have a janitorial company cleaning that? No, of course I do, you know, like I'm insulting him. I said, the janitorial company, are they registered with the federal government? And he said, well, I don't know. What does that matter? And I said, well, if they are and they got a cage code, every dime you pay them, you can write off in the ESRS. That's one less subcontractor you have to hire. And he didn't know that. So when you run across a vendor and they don't know that and you explain that to them, you just opened up a whole new realm of making it easier on them, making their life easier. And they're going to appreciate you for that. And they'll probably hire you or give you some work just because you brought that to their attention. But most of them know it. They know if they hire you, even if they hire you to do diversity training for their employees in-house. You know, IBM hires you to do diversity training for them. They can write that off on the ESRS. That's one less sub they have to hire.
Okay.
So even though you're not working on a government contract, you're working directly for them. That's still, they can still write it off, and it still counts as past performance.
Okay.
And there's plenty of primes out there that'll hire you just to write it off, and they'll put it in the ESRS, and you have to have a cage code, so you have to be registered for them to do that. You got to be a federal vendor to do that. All right?
Okay. Thanks, John.
No problem. You can thank me after you win your first contract. Always.
I'll buy you the biggest steak they make in Florida, the steak you find in Florida. I'll get you the whole cow.
There you go. Be a successful broker. Brokering is really easy, guys. It's the easiest thing I could explain. Find something the government needs. Find someone who has it. Get at least 3 quotes if you can, so you know the price you're being given is fair. If all 3 people give you roughly the same price, you know the price is fair. And then you got, if your one supplier falls through, you got 2 more suppliers to fall back on. And then once you get your price, mark it up 15, 20% and submit your bid. The more bids you submit, the more contracts you're going to win. I don't know if any of you guys have ever seen me talk about, and I'm going to pause this for a second.